Good evening, Facebook. I wanted to spend about 2 or 3 minutes talking to you about a current law that's on the books that should be on everybody's mind tonight after what happened at the church down in Texas. So in Virginia, there's a code section that is 18.2-283, which makes it a crime, a class 4 misdemeanor, to bring essentially a firearm or some other weapons, you can look at the code yourself, into a church. Now, unless there's good and sufficient reason. Now, there's really no definition in the code of what good and sufficient reason is. Our former Attorney General, Ken Cuccinelli, wrote an opinion letter about this when he was the Attorney General, but opinion letters don't have any legal meaning. But in his opinion letter, he said good and sufficient reason was personal protection. Now, the issue with this is there is a law on the books that says it is illegal to bring a firearm into a church. And although we do have an Attorney General's opinion a previous Attorney General's opinion that says personal protection is that, our current Attorney General has never seen a gun law that he agrees with, and I suspect that if somebody were to ask him for his opinion, he would probably say the only good and sufficient reason would be, something ludicrous like, a situation where there was a threat to the church and there had to be a security force on that church on that specific day. Something crazy like that. 18.2-283 needs to be repealed. It's dumb. I can take my employees can take guns to my law office. You can take a gun into a lot of businesses in Virginia, but you can't take it into a church unless it's for good and sufficient reason, and that's not been defined. So you face the possibility of a criminal prosecution because of that. So it needs to go. People in churches are very, very vulnerable. It's a gun-free zone in a lot of places, and thank God today that when that guy came in and shot that church up, he was responded with by armed parishioners who fired back. And although people died, a lot more people would have died if there weren't people in there with firearms shooting back. It's ridiculous that the state would tell a church what it can and can't do as far as bringing firearms into the buildings. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Write to the Republican delegates and the Republican senators and call for 18.2-283 to be repealed. It may not pass, but put the Democrats on record that yet again they're not being reasonable on guns. It's nothing for a delegate to put a bill up. Maybe the delegate who threw up the bill we talked about the other day, maybe he could redeem himself by asking for 18.2-283 to be repealed. It has no place, and as was demonstrated today in Texas, somebody in the church was able to respond, and those two people saved hundreds of lives probably. I mean, that guy could have killed many people in that church, wounded many people in that church. And although some died and some were critically injured, because people were allowed to have guns in that church, they were responded to. So it doesn't make any sense. There's really not a clear definition of what good cause is. It just needs to go, and it should have gone a long time ago. So this is the perfect time for a Republican to put a bill up that would actually repeal a law that has no place in our modern day society. Now, look, if a church wants to ban guns, it can do that. It's a private landowner, okay? So they can do that. So if you have a church and they don't want guns in their church, that's their prerogative. But it shouldn't be the state telling a church what it can and can't do. It should be the other way around. It should be the church telling the parishioners what it will let happen, not some arbitrary statute that's vague, that has no real understanding what it means, even though a former Attorney General interpreted it one way. I'm sure our current Attorney General would interpret it another. So 18.2-283 needs to go. Write to your delegates, write to your senators, ask them to prepare a bill that actually repeals this ridiculous law. To the people in Texas, prayers are with you. Have a good night, guys.